Okay. All right, buddy.
John Joffrey.
Danny. You just want to sit right here by me?
Why do I want to do that?
Yeah.
One is?
I have no idea.
Oh. All right.
I don't know if Kevin wants to press it back.
Says no, but I think we should make,
I think so too.
because we're gonna end up directing a lot of questions to him, so. Everybody, hey, maybe the mics are on, you can probably call him.
I think Mr. Tilson.
Yep.
Mr. Lord.
Oh, no, no, it's a town hall, but last time the attorney recommended we should, I don't know why. Okay. Chris isn't gonna be here, right?
I guess.
Stacy's not, so you can move down here if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're gonna have to, if you don't call, you don't write. You don't call, you don't. I got my feelings for. Why? You know, this. One hundred sixty-eight. Under control.
So then I saw.
I'm okay with that.
Trying to avoid it the better.
No, I told him he was gonna try to hide.
Hit my chair right by.
He did, right there by the kitchen door.
These laces, geez, I got a little hard still. She's the latest and greatest of everybody that's in front of the MPA. Look up there now. Yeah.
Would be so you guys have them too.
Gonna sit between them two guys? Oh, my.
Rose between two boards.
Roche. I say bro like bro and then Taylor.
Oh, hey. Easy.
My student.
Just.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. Sorry about the delay at 6:07. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence and observance of all military past and present.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. Which stands one under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Deputy, when you get a moment, will you please do a roll call, please?
Tim Brenner.
Sorry.
Pat Tack.
Catherine.
Eric Gunnels.
Here.
John Congdon.
Here.
Chris Taylor,
Excused.
Stacy Wells,
Excused.
Rachel Stankey.
Here. I'd also like to introduce a few other of our community members. We have our planning chair down at the end, Kevin Lawrence, if you guys aren't familiar with who he is. This is Stephanie Rowe, who is very informative of what's going on with our cases that currently stands in the state of Michigan. And we also have Mr. Tilson, who is also one of our planning members on our board, and they will be able to help answer any questions you guys may have as well. So we'll start off just with a few key things. What we do know, there was an initial pre-hearing back in November. At that time, the application was incomplete by the Michigan Public Service Commission. They did turn around and submit the deficiencies, and they ended up getting that application approved. We did have a town hall meeting, and there was a second pre-hearing watch party at that time on Tuesday, January 20th at 9 a.m. There's an Otisville Solar host agreement that we still have to bring to the board. We had brought it at one time and not taken any action at that time on the host agreement, which we can answer some more questions as we move along in the conversation. PA 233, if you're not aware, does not give the Thetford Township Board any involvement in the decision-making. And from there, I have an update from our attorney who sent me an email today that I'd like to share with everybody. He stated that for the past several weeks, the developer's plans have been subject of discovery, which is the process by which the MPSC and all intervening parties can learn more about those plans. The MPSC has largely driven the discovery process by serving the petitioner with questions and requests for documents concerning different aspects of the petitioner's plans. Discovery closes very soon, after which the parties are expected to submit written submissions to the MPSC expressing their views about the plan. Ultimately, I expect the MPSC will approve the developer's project. It may not approve the developer's plans as submitted, as it has the authority to approve plans that are different than what the developer proposed, provided those revised plans are consistent with state law. Township residents must understand that the state legislature took control away from the township relating to solar projects and gave ultimate approval to the MPSC. The township intervened in the case so that it could have a seat at the table, but the township's involvement is limited to commenting on the sufficiency of the developer's plans to make sure that the project conforms to the requirements of the state law. With that, we will go ahead and open up for public comments or questions, anything you guys would like to add. We do have a few experts that's been working on this since day one too that can help move us along. I'll give you guys 2 minutes apiece if you want, anybody wants to take the podium and express their opinion or ask any questions. Nobody does. Okay, so we'll give you some more information. We'll start down here with Stephanie. Would you like to share some information that you're aware of?
So for me, I bought a farm down the road on Vienna Road. The situation was complex because the solar developer, the prior owner signed the farm up for the solar development. It wasn't disclosed to us, so I was aware of it. I got aware of it about 6 months after buying the property. And I got into an ongoing issue, obviously, then with that developer. Ultimately, the land did get released. My involvement is I intervened in the case to discuss farm-related impacts. So in our case, we're trying to make a lavender farm. And one example is lavender is very sensitive to drainage. So if drainage, one thing they do is they compost in the ground. It could potentially destroy drain tiles. They grade, that could also change drainage. So that's the kind of issues that I'm bringing up with the Michigan Public Service Commission. Another issue is noise. So they have inverters which can generate noise. PA 233 has what some would argue are fairly high noise allowances, where they can be like 55 decibels at the residence wall, which presumably means it can be higher than that further out in the property. So, you know, those are the kind of concerns that I think people need to pay attention to and bring up. I will say through the process that while definitely, like the attorney said, the position of the Michigan Public Service Commission based on the law, PA 233, is that these projects generally they want to see them go forward because of the clean energy, requirement standards that were passed a few years ago, trying to get us to, well, at a certain point, 100% renewable energy is our energy source. So, which requires, very substantial amounts of land. So their position is definitely more inclined toward approval, but you can get conditions. So conditions can be things like vegetative screening. It does seem to me, from my interactions with Michigan Public Service Commission, that that is a high priority for them. They do want to make sure that visibility to residents is reduced. So, and they also want to make sure that township ordinances are followed. So that don't conflict with PA 233. So for example, we have a vegetative screening ordinance and they actually are required to follow. We do have to make sure that that gets into the record tomorrow. But the, there are protections. So it's not like 100%, we have no say. I would say it's probably no say in saying no. I think that's tough. But there definitely is site-specific things that can happen to mitigate particular concerns. Felton, is there anything you'd like to share?
Yeah. So I look in the audience and I see a lot of new faces, and I'm really pleased that everyone took the time to come. I just want to give a quick summary of my involvement and perspective. So roughly about 5 years ago, the company solicitors started going to the farmers and making offers to lease their land for the solar project. And that's when I started hearing about it and started coming to the meetings. This topic has been on the agenda every month for about the last 5 years. And so 2 years ago, Rachel appointed me to the planning commission because when I bought our first farm on Vassar Road, right on the border of Forest and Thetford Township, just a quarter mile south of Vienna Road, I thought I did my due diligence, and I went to Forest Township and I went to Thetford Township and wanted to be very clear before I invested a lot of money in the area that this was rural agricultural and it was going to stay, and it wasn't going to become a industrial commercial complex. It was going to stay rural agricultural, and we we're going to live in the country like we all want to be here in the first place. And I was assured of that. Well, they changed the rules and said rural agricultural includes solar farms. So I was pretty disappointed. So I got involved with this. Was involved with Forest Township on writing their solar ordinance. Was heavily involved in writing Thetford Townships. Made sure that the two were consistent since this project overlaps both townships. Well, then in November of 2023, PA 233 was approved and basically was a major game changer. We put 3 years of work into this on the townships, and townships, there's 1,200 townships in Michigan. And all of a sudden it said, well, basically our voice really doesn't matter. Now everything goes to a 3-member appointed panel, Michigan Public Service Commission. To say I was disappointed, or we as a township collectively disappointed, would be an understatement. That was a major change. So here we stand, as Rachel outlined. Now they've applied, and my basic points are solar fields don't stand on their own without government subsidies, which is taxpayer money. Not a single person in this audience can start a business that makes something and for twice the cost of what they sell it for and can stay in business. And somehow with taxpayer subsidies, they can. So that's my first point. Number two is, I don't believe that they have exhaustively researched brownfield opportunities like Buick City land, BC Spark Plug land, Turnsteads, the old Fisher Body site. All these things that are already set up for industrialization were industrial and could be industrial. The other thing is land use. We spent 2 years on a master plan for our township. The whole township's only about 24,000 acres. There's only about 3,800 acres that hasn't been developed. And we have plans. We want We want to be able to build homes for future generations of kids. We want to be able to develop, have parks and these kind of things. 2,100 acres for this project, which quite frankly, we don't know the extent of the project. There's other developers that are looking for land as well. We just think of this as phase one. If phase one is 2,100 acres, what's the end game? What's the whole plan? And if you look at the map, many residents are going to see this either on one side of them, 2, 3, or in some cases 4 sides of them. And a majority of our net worth is in our real estate, is in our home. We work our whole life to pay for it. People don't flock to areas that have landfills and solar fields and windmills and junkyards. And so collectively, all the residents of Thetford and Forest Townships are going to take a huge financial hit, because selling your property is going to be much more difficult, and you're not going to sell it for more. It doesn't attract more money. We're all going to take a hit. Solar technology is changing. I believe that they won't need as much land in the future as with solar panel technology rapidly changing, roughly half. And we wrote our ordinance. You can't say no. We didn't say no. We said we can have solar here, but we didn't want any one or group of people being impacted by putting it so concentrated in a small area. Said put X number of acres and the next one half a mile away. So it's spread throughout, not concentrated and completely industrializing one area. So we asked them to come look at our ordinance. They made a comment that overall seemed like it was kind of favorable. They highlighted a few sections that they wanted to discuss, and they left and never came back. So in my opinion, they did not thoroughly pursue the required opportunity to work with the township. They looked at our ordinance and, okay, there's a few things in there, and they left, and we haven't heard from them since. They went straight to the state. So I'm pretty disappointed in this whole process. And I think as a community, we collectively should be disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin, do you have anything you would like to add?
Well, I don't know how familiar everybody is with 233. But let me just say that when we did our ordinance, 233 says you can only have about 4 different factors in your ordinance, and that's all. And what it amounts to is they call it a CREO, compatible renewable energy ordinance. If your ordinance doesn't mirror what the state wants, then that's what allows the company to go to the state and bypass the local townships. And when we did our ordinance, we took a lot of time to try to protect our residents. But I just want to touch on a couple things. PA 233 said that they can build their solar farm within 300 feet of a non-participating occupied building, which would be your home. Regardless of how big your land is and where the property line is, they can come within 300 feet of your home. The second thing in that same agreement with the state is from a non-participating property line, they can put their solar panels 50 feet. So the state can allow them to put their panels 50 feet from your property line or 300 feet from your home, whichever that falls into. So if you live, 250 feet off your property line and 50 feet over, you're going to have, solar panels right outside your property line. The other thing was the height limits, the panels can be 25 feet tall. We had a restriction of 14 feet. We were trying to keep them low profile so that you can still see over. Most garage buildings, a lot of them are, the peak of your roof is about 14 feet. So that's what we were looking at when we did our ordinance. State says they can build them 25 feet tall, which is going to affect you looking out your window, you might have, I don't know if you'd be able to even see out a second story window over top of them, just to get a distance. And the 55 decibels is the, sound limit. The state says it can be that loud and that we can't force them to make it quieter. Which we felt 45 decibels was a more comfortable level for these inverters convert the solar energy to AC electricity and they hum consistently. So you expect a consistent hum. When we first talked about it before they did go to the state, they did look at our ordinance. I've got the sheet that they hit that they didn't like. We had them look at it, send me back a sheet when we were doing our meetings of things they didn't like. One was the 45 decibels. We were negotiating with them, and I believe we some of the things we had an understanding with. We were willing to modify our ordinance to 55 decibels, but they put their inverters as far away from occupied residents on that parcel as they can and put soundproofing around the border where the inverters are. Similar to what the soundproofing you see along freeway walls and stuff like that to deaden the noise, to try to keep it down. They were willing to do that. We were willing to do that. We moved the property line to 100 feet. They were willing to work with us on that. But when we got into some of the harder stuff that we felt was non-negotiable, and part of that was we wanted these sites to be at least a mile apart. We were willing to give them 250 acres of a square, but then we wanted to move them apart so that they're spread out. We don't want them all concentrated like you see on the map all in one spot. And they wouldn't, that was a deal breaker for them. Can't do that. You know, so there's things that was give and take, but there are a few things that we set right hard on and said, no, you know, we got to do something for our residents. So that's why we ended up, they broke off the talks and went to the state, but it's not for us lack of trying to work out something with them. So that's a little bit about what 233 could be forcing us down the road to put up with. And like Stephanie said, and Gary said, we can't have any other further restrictions other than what's those terms that the state spells out, which vastly hurts us. And I don't know where we're going to end up down the road because they don't want to abide by any other than local zoning ordinances that you can't put in there. So that's going to be to be seen. One other thing I'll touch on real quick is you see articles of all the money that we're gonna get, all this money all comes in, millions of dollars. There's a project in Saline Township in Washington County, and the MPSC made them itemize all the tax money that's coming in. And so I went online to the paperwork and the case these cases, but they're all viewable on the MPSC website. You can go down and read all this applications and everything that's turned in. Saline Township is comparable to Thetford as far as the operating millage that they get and the size of the solar farm they're going to put in. The money coming in to Saline Township that's Washington Solar Project estimated for the first 15 years is $33,000 a year. That's all. That's all that township will get out of this big solar farm that's actually a little bit bigger than the one they proposed for here. And that's only for 15 years. At the end of 15 years, they're allowed to depreciate all their equipment down to 12% of the value. And the chart that they submitted to the state is that 33,000 drops to 11,800 for the rest of the remainder of the 30-year term. So when you see them say, here's all this money coming, here's all this money, it's not. It costs the township, I believe, Rachel, what in the neighborhood of 150,000, 200,000 to pave a mile of road. So don't think that, you know, we're going to get all this money and we're going to just start paving roads and there's not that much money there. I mean, it's, but they'll tell you that in the propaganda, here's all this money. Well, all this money also is spread out all through the county and to schools and other agencies. if we had, a road millage, say in this township, yeah, we would get money out of that, but we don't. So in actual facts, what is coming down to us is, yeah, we stand to maybe make $33,000 a year out of this solar farm for the first 15 years. And you get to look at it for 30 years. You know, the money's not, to me, my own personal opinion, the money's not worth what we're gonna have to go through. You know, but other than that, I guess I can't answer too much more right now.
You might have generated some questions by now.
Does anybody have any questions? Please
Yes.
come up.
Come up here.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Nothing prepared.
I think it's on already, but
What's that?
yep, you're ready.
My name is Charlie Barden. I'm out of Orange Township. And I've been to quite a few of your meetings and Otisville's meetings. And I just wanted to confirm through the meetings what you guys have already heard. But when Gary Tilson there said that a lot of new faces, I just figured it's time to reiterate what another nice young man said, Mr. Tuttle, about the electromagnet radiation tester. Little $35 gizmo. Go down Dodge Road, stick this out the window of your truck, run the road. Goes off the chart. Radiation hazardous. Them houses are 100 feet off the road. And they're just about the same from those solar panels. So I just wanted to be aware of that there's radiation that comes off this, and see if you can get anything from the solar people to comment on that. It's $35 and get online. Anybody want to use this or check it out? But your house is worth nothing if you live next to these things. Your kids in the backyard, you got not only the sun radiation, but you've got this. The house is worth nothing. That's what these people have done. And all of them are from either Chicago or California, somewhere else. They need to go back there.
Please come up.
Thank you.
My name's Andy, Mark, I live on Dodge Road at Bray. I heard you say that these last for approximately 30 years. What's done after they've taken our land and basically destroyed it? Is there money to refurbish this land, set in escrow to take care of this? Because I know these pylons are so deep. This land is basically unusable after they get done with it. Is there any way that we can say, okay, this is a stipulation, put this money in escrow to take care of this property after you've ruined it?
Can I answer?
Please.
There, in our ordinance, we had a decommissioning portion that actually required 125%, an engineer's estimate of 125% of what it would cost to clean up the land. We did in our ordinance, maybe unfairly to the property owner, in our ordinance, we specified that it was the company and the property owner jointly that had to make sure the land was cleaned up. This was a stipulation because, the landowner it's his property.
It's his choice.
But he's still gonna be partially responsible for cleaning it up. That was in our ordinance. The PA 233 Act does address the decommissioning bond in the same way, with one exception that I've discovered through reading some of the cases before the MPSD, is that the companies are hedging, saying there should be enough scrap value in the equipment at the end of 30 years to cover the cost of cleaning it up. And I don't think there's probably a person in this room that would say, I'm gonna bank on all that stuff that you depreciate 15 years into the project, you depreciated it to 12% of the value.
Correct.
Run me another 15 years, what's it gonna be worth in 30 years? to clean all this up.
And they told us that you would get our township would get millions, and you're gonna get thousands, so why should we believe that they're gonna do this at the end of 30 years when it's gonna be probably a totally different name on the company that's running this thing, and they won't be liable for anything?
Yeah, that's the scary part to me, and that's what bothers me is that we can no longer control that now, that it's the state's taking command of it.
Thank you.
You know, thank you.
Way back.
Hi, my name is Michael Mayer. I just, first off, I wanted to let you know that this mailer went out and it's postmarked the 14th. I got it today. You guys might wanna consider mailing stuff sooner, considering our postal service. Secondly, if we're gonna be 100% renewable, how much land does that require? Is there enough land in Michigan to make us 100% renewable?
No.
Have they been required to show that or prove that?
They have a number which is 224,000 acres, but what I've observed in these projects is they require about twice that land, so. That's 224,000 acres of panels. So they also need setbacks, you know, in terms of, as you can see, they don't use every square ounce of what's inside of the project area, so it's probably gonna be a lot more. But now on top of it, they have data centers, so 224,000 acre estimate was based on the amount of energy that we were projected back then. In 2022, which is I think when they passed the law. So they're estimating that one data center requires the amount of energy of a nuclear power plant, which, you know, the amount of land that is equivalent to that is tremendous, so. It will tell you that it's like 0.5% of the farmland in Michigan.
Since we don't have any say in this at all, or sounds like very little, shouldn't they be required to have a master plan that shows the state exactly what they're gonna do, when they're gonna do it, how they're going to meet this zero energy requirement or whatever you wanna call it? Is that not something that could be asked or a lawyer enforce or?
They have something called Healthy Climate, and it actually does detail everything out, like there's this huge document they made that's Healthy Climate, and it kind of outlines it, but the way that this is being approached for the most part is through private development, which means it depends on where landowners sign up. You know, so I would say there is no like plan. Like, and mostly we're just gonna show up as places like this. Where there's lots of energy infrastructure, it's those high power lines all over the place over here. So places like Howell have something like this, Saline has this, we have the Sheboygan, there's a bunch of huge projects proposed up there. If you start getting into it and seeing how many projects are being proposed right now, you'd be shocked.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And there's actually one over in Birch Run, and it's on that list over there, Birch Run Valley, it's supposed to
I
be
see.
3,000 acres.
Yeah, see. Okay, well, I guess, be careful how you vote, that's all I can say.
There's the key.
Is there anybody else who'd like to stand up and make a comment? You guys are more than welcome just to continue to walk up if you want to.
Hi, my name's Daniel Rhodes. I moved into Thetford Township on Bray Road in 22. One of your sheets that was passed out said, Senate committees which did not bring up the HB 4027. What's the HB 4027? I don't even see that list.
HB 4027 is a legislation that was passed by the House of Representatives in April of 2025 to overturn PA 233 and return the control to the local townships. The House of Representatives at the state of Michigan overwhelmingly passed that bill. But the way our system works, it has to go to the Senate to be passed, and then it goes from there to the governor to be signed or vetoed. That's how our system works. The 4027 bill went to the Senate. The list you got has Winnie Banks at the top, I believe, referring to that sheet there.
Yeah.
She is the chairperson for the committee that this bill went to. And she would be the one to bring it up for discussion into a vote. The last, excuse me, that I had looked at it on this sheet, that committee has not met since they were appointed in 2024. They have done nothing. There is a laundry list a mile long of House of Representative bills that's been sent to them to evaluate it either yay or nay. They haven't even addressed it.
All right, so this HB 4027 is supposed to repeal PA 233.
Right, and turn local control back. This was, and it passed. I watched that was a videotaped court hearing. I watched that, attended remotely. And there was a lot of organizations that testified to that House committee prior to the vote and urging them to return it. There was Farm Bureau representatives, Michigan Township Association representatives, Michigan Municipal League, a lot of organizations that said, hey, this belongs back local, not state.
Okay,
And like I say, it passed that section, but they have not brought it to a vote. So the only thing in our last town hall meeting, we were urging people to write letters, their email addresses on there and say, hey, get it in gear and address this one way or the other.
Yeah,
I think, this is gonna be a November election, deal, I think, here, where we're at.
personally, I haven't heard anything about this until you had the letter thing on Facebook yesterday, saying that you mailed out a letter a week ago, and I'm like, I was in a board before, and we always had, hey, at least 2 weeks notice. You guys gotta get on the ball and get the stuff out 2 weeks ahead of time. The other thing is we wanna inundate these people who have not brought this, HB 4027 to a vote. Just inundate them with phone calls, inundate them with letters, just drive them nuts. Because the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And if we can just make that PA 233 go away, that would probably help us out a lot, right?
Right,
Okay.
There is, to expand on that, there was another lawsuit that's been going through the works since, November, I think, 2024, if I remember correctly. There were about 90 townships and several counties that all joined together in a class action suit to the state of Michigan to repeal 233. And it's just now getting to the Michigan Court of Appeals. There was a 57-minute hearing video on the 15th of April on it, where the legal firm that's representing all these townships and stuff testified before the court, and then of course they had the rebuttals from the MPSC and the solar companies. There is a link. Usually I put links like that on Facebook. I downloaded the video, but it's too massive to email to anybody.
Exactly.
With the content. I don't know, I talked to our deputy clerk about after tonight's program, if somebody was still here, we could bring it up on the TV if you wanted to invest 57 minutes in watching this court hearing. There's a lot of good information that gets bounced around. My opinion of it, and I don't know how many other people watched it, but my opinion, I felt a lot more impressed by the three judges as far as how they viewed the case of 233, and they raised a lot of questions on, why is the MPSC doing this and rewriting the rules that the state legislatures passed. Essentially is what they're doing.
Well, I don't know how many people here actually have a way of looking it up online.
Right.
But if you could just post a link to it
Mhm.
on the website, on the Thetford Township website, and say, we really recommend you watch this, and, all these senators and,
Yeah,
that'd probably be a way about going.
I think our supervisor can make that happen. I try to post a lot of stuff on the Facebook pages that I have access to, but for the community, but
I know you guys are all overwhelmed, just like everybody else in government, right?
And just a side note too, it looks like that Eric Nesbitt is running for governor, so.
Yeah, I saw that. But he's not the only one running for governor. There's a ton of them out there, but we want to just get a hold of the people that can bring down the the PA 233 with this HB 4027, that's who we need to go after, right?
I personally, I would just urge you as we approach the November elections. If you're, contemplating voting for somebody, ask them where they stand on that. But I think, we people here on the ground floor, we gotta do a lot of pushing to get to the people above us to make something happen.
Yeah,
And
like I said, a squeaky wheel gets the oil, so.
Yeah.
We need to get noisy about it.
exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Joseph, Wendell, and I live over on Scott Road in Thetford Township. I'm concerned that if this phase one, as we've called it, of this project goes through, does that open the door for eminent domain to come in and use that to get the land for more of this continued project?
So that's actually not allowed under PA 233. So these specific solar projects need to be done with willing private landowners. There's a side concern on that they do require additional infrastructure, and that could be leaving them in domain, like for example, more high-powered lines, the kind of things that they more typically to support the project. So there is definitely people who are worried about the side impacts of putting this kind of infrastructure.
Thank you. Okay.
Sherry Holly. Our family has lived there for over 150 years. And we are in the middle of the data center. With 3 sides of solar that we are going to have on our property. We, as a community, need to join together and we need to fight this along with the data centers because they're fighting for the same reasons we are. They want to get rid of the 233. They want to get rid of a lot of the things that the government has put in place to take away our rights. I have a couple things that I actually follow. So I follow an Economic Development Responsibility Alliance on Facebook. They give you a lot of information for guidance on letters, who to call, what state representatives we need to call. The other place I follow quite closely is Michigan Citizens Against Data Centers. They have a ton of information. A lot of it comes from the other states also. But also the House Oversight Committee, Subcommittee on the State Investments. They've been having hearings. They've been holding the hearings on the AI data centers in Lansing. They now are having a public comment session that people can put in their public comments on Wednesday. It's in Lansing if you want to actually go to Lansing and be there for it. Or you can actually file your comments on it. And Steve Cara is the state representative that's got all this information out. And so on his site, he gives you the information where you can actually email your written information. So if you want any of those addresses or information, please get with me after the fact, or I can get it out on the website. Yeah, okay. So if you have any information or any other information that you want to get out, it might be a really good time to get it out by Wednesday to this committee. They're letting public comments. It's just for public comments on Wednesday.
Where? Which website?
It's at the state. It's at the state. And the public comments can be made, I can get you that information, it's through Steve Cara, our state representative. And he has an email address of sdunn@housemichigan.gov. house.mi.gov that we can actually put in written comments. So if you need more information, please get with me.
So just a comment on that. Rachel and I are just talking, Amby, just a little heads up. Before Sherry leaves, she'll get that information. If you can just let everybody know, if you weren't able to follow that or didn't get a chance to write it down. Amby will put it on the Thetford Township website and you can, you'll see it on there. So you'll have a chance between now and Wednesday to go and make your comments on that website. Thanks for that,
You
Sharon.
can just copy the page if you don't mind.
Well, thanks.
Is there anybody else who would like to make a comment?
I am Susan Booth, and I've lived on Scott Road since 1979. And an avenue that I would like to see followed concerning the data centers and the solar farms is, it's just not been mentioned, the quick money that these corporate could be making immediately. And they don't care what happens to the land or the buildings or the family or the agriculture or the deer or the herrings or the eagles or anything else in this area. Okay. I want to know, and I don't know, I don't have the facts, if they lease this land, do they then have access to the equity value that they can immediately invest in? Let's say things like the supplies they're gonna need to build the solar farms. But whether they spend it on that or some of it just gets embezzled, who knows? So I would like that to be answered. I would like to know if at that point they do have access to the equity value of this land in order to conduct their business. If they turn around and sell that to maybe a sister corporation, who then says, well, this land isn't worth that much anymore now because they got solar panels on it. Okay, they got magnetic, radioactive magnetic electronic radiation going on. And there's scientific data on that. And the temperatures around the data centers can raise the land and the air temperatures as much as 15 degrees or a minimum of 15 degrees Fahrenheit, which is going to affect the environment. So I have yet to see an eagle or an animal land on the high wires, hey, because of the electromagnetic radiation on it. So if they sell it to a sister corporation, the value is immediately gone down. They're out from under everything. They've got this money from the equity value of the land they leased. This is just something I think needs to be looked at and investigated and find out exactly what the logistics of this is. Because I know, like, if a corporation comes out and they're going to build a big tower office building in New York or something, they can say, well, the equity of my building project is going to be X, and they can get that cash so that they can immediately start paying the contractors and buying the materials. Can they do the same here? And take your equity value of the land they're leasing and use it for whatever. I think that's a very important avenue to look at. It would explain the motivation why they're pushing it so hard, because the solar farms themselves, that technology is totally antiquated. The rest of the world is not doing that. Okay? They're not sending the electric that they generate through wind generators or whatever they're doing. France is ahead of us, England is ahead of us, Germany is way ahead of us on all of this stuff. Australia, you can't be out in the middle of the outback, and expect to run wires there. And so they are using very old technology. And I don't understand why they're doing this, because they know better. There's got to be a money trail here, and I would like to know the logistics of that legally from, financial attorneys or whatever. I think this really needs to be looked at and would be a good thing for an attorney to use in a courtroom to prove motivation. Everything else, what it does to the environment, what it does to us, the cancers that it causes, and the PFAS, forever chemicals, damages that they do. We've got the scientific data for that. That's sound. But these people that are out to make lots of money really fast, run it through a little banking trail around the world and end up, nobody knows where that 3 trillion went to, right? Okay, it's happening today. We see it every day. So I would like to see that pursued by somebody that has the knowledge and the legal aspects to do that. Find out where the money trail is gonna go.
Good point. Thank you, Susan.
One comment with that, talking about the money trail, one thing that is sealed in every one of these cases at the MPSC is the rental agreements with the property owners. You go to each of the file cases, and it's section 8.2 or 4, I believe, I can't remember the exact number. That part of that record is completely redacted. We cannot see as public or government what the rental payments are. I've searched and searched. I did locate through the Michigan Farm Bureau 2 sample contracts that solar companies commonly use. And I read them both, and they're very scary. The legalese that's in it. And when we were doing our ordinance, we had some landowners that came in here and informed us that they were worried about the ordinance because they wanted to sign up for solar. And we urged all of them to get your own attorney before you sign anything. And don't listen to the corporate people, give you their sales pitch. And I don't know how many of them took advantage, but if you ever get to read one of those blank contracts that I found, they're horrible as far as the landowners. They're written completely for the company, so we have no idea. The last that I had researched, anywhere from $500 to $3,000 an acre is what these solar companies were offering the farmers, which I don't blame them if they're 80, 85 years old, they want to retire. Their kids aren't into farming, they got to do something with the land, that's their pension, so to speak. If they want to do it, that's their right. It's property owners' rights. And we have a hard time on the planning commission because we have to deal with private property rights versus what's good for everybody. And there again, like I say, I don't fault them if they want to lease it to solar, that's fine. The only thing we're asking is you keep it under control, where you're not interfering with your neighbor's right to privacy or his rights to enjoy his view or his land, that you're going to encroach on that. So, but yeah, I would love to know a lot more of the financial aspects of it, but they sure keep a tight lid on that.
My name's Steve Wendell, lived in Thetford Township for 20 years. This is my first meeting. Yeah. I did also get a letter. I didn't know about it. It was in my mailbox. A neighbor said, check your mailbox today. And I went out and sure enough, I got it today. So anyway, I did learn tonight that the lawsuit that is going on at the Supreme Court level, I believe, against P233. I don't know. I know very little about this whole thing at this point. All I know is I'm being brought up to speed quickly, and I'm not real happy about a lot of stuff that's going on with it. I do see the lawsuit as perhaps really our only hope of something changing. Someone made mention of the fact that there's 90 townships that are attached to that lawsuit. I'm curious to know, is this township one of them? It is not. Is it something that can you retrospectively attach yourself to the lawsuit?
Can I ask our attorney?
Okay. Would this township be willing to attach itself to that lawsuit if that is something that's legal?
It would be something I brought to the board, but they all seem to be against solar for the most part. But for property rights, I think that yes, the board would probably support us being attached to that. I won't speak for two of our members, but.
I wouldn't be opposed to that, but why we're right here at this point, just give them a brief backup of the money that we got to the attorney that they gave us to fight them, so that anyone that's here knows how that.
Understands it. So, Otisville Solar had to give us $75,000. So this project spans across Thetford Township and Forest Township. About, I want to say 25% maybe into Forest Township, very little. So they had to give us $75,000 as well as Forest Township $75,000. Ironically, we share the same township attorney. So we are both paying our township attorney about $150,000 combined to fight this, well, pick it apart, I guess you could say. They're playing it apart at the state of Michigan right now. So he's doing that for us, but I know what lawsuit you're talking about. You're talking about the one where the townships had combined. Look at that, I think that was about 2 years ago. No, year and a half or so, 2 years ago that they initiated that. I did mention it to Attorney Gilbert at that time. That was something we could be a part of. He said he wasn't opposed to reaching out to those attorneys that were representing the case. So I think that it's something that we could open the door up to and see if it's not too late to get involved.
I actually can comment to this because I spoke to the attorney at Foster Swift, and that deadline did pass to actually join formally, but what is extremely helpful to him, he said, is letters of support from townships.
Okay.
In support of the lawsuit, and he even mentioned that at the hearing on Wednesday about how many letters he's gotten from townships. Because there was a hard deadline, that's one of the reasons why I think it didn't happen here, was because it was within 30 days of that rulemaking process that people had to get in, and if you missed it, you missed it. But yeah, it's still beneficial for us to send a letter of support.
I would officially like to ask the board to actually consider or vote on that at your next meeting or whatever, to get a letter to see if we can't support that action. If that lawsuit against PT 33 is successful, what are our steps after that? I mean, does it go back? I mean, the fight's not over. I mean, they're going to still want to build. And so does it go back to our local ordinances that you guys have spent so much time on trying to, where does it go from there? And that's really the crux of where.
I would assume so. I believe that if it gets shut down at the MPSC, if this doesn't pass the MPSC, or the application for some ironic reason doesn't pass, or, approval by the state of Michigan, then Otisville will probably approach us again and hopes to get approval to build the project. And then it would go in front of our planning commission.
We have that ordinance in place, so then they would have to come to us and say, and then we would be negotiation. You're not in a position to say, make it so they can't. Because that'll get you a cut.
Right.
But you can negotiate, like Kevin described, farther setbacks, lower, and they would, if they want to do the project, they would be in a position to have to work with us. Right now, they don't have to work with us at all. They just go to the state and say, take the 4 guidelines and we're done. So I would say you were correct. It would come back here and we would work through the ordinance that diligently was made.
I would probably vote to stick right to the ordinance and not really be negotiable on anything, but that's just my view.
Okay,
There you go.
thank you.
I just want to add with the $75,000 that Rachel mentioned, that was a requirement of PA 233 that the applicant has to provide that to the townships. However, that 75,000 can only be used for legal fees to fight the siting through MPSC. It has to be held in a special account that the applicant company can audit at any time to make sure that we are using it for legal fees. And at the end of the time period, any funds not used have to be returned to the company, should they get approved by the state. So it's nothing that we can just, tuck in our pocket. We're restricted solely for legal fees for this project. So it's, I'm hoping we take advantage of that and let's spend all their money before it's all done. You know, it's not costing us tax, that's non-taxpayer money, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It has to come out of this company. So.
Thank you, Kevin.
I'm the old guy. But is this meeting, the people that do this solar farm, are they monitoring this? Do they hear this? Do we, are our opinions, do they amount just to you or are they getting on to anybody else?
They amount to our township.
Yeah, it's not hooked into any of the solar people. Okay. Well, I'm one of the guys that owns a farm out here in Forest Township at 40 acres. They came to me like 3 years ago. They offered me $1,000 an acre to rent this land for 39 years. I get $40,000 for 39 years. I don't have to start a tractor. I don't have to plant nothing. I don't have to have a cow. I don't have to do nothing. They'll pay me $40,000. I told them to go fly a kite. I'm not going to do it. They came around a year and a half ago. Wondering about the dollar figures. They offered me $3,000 an acre to put on batteries on my property. Now I'm talking $120,000. Now, there was a lady in the back that was asking, why in the world are these guys selling their land and everything? We're not selling. And they're not selling it to people. They're leasing it for 39 years. And that's the incentive, is the dollar figure. Okay. Now, as far as electrical radiation, electromagnetic fields, as I look out of my window and look to the north, of course, Gary's over to the west, and it was over to the north, a mile from me. There's a full mile of solar farms going in there. A full mile. That's a lot of money for that farmer. That's a lot of money. And so I'm taking this panel, and this panel is going to make 5 volts. 5 volts. I'm going to take a bazillion of these panels, and I'm going to hook them all together. And I'm going to run them through an inverter. And then I'm going to try to pump that electricity from 2.5 miles away over to where they're going to tie in, because they can't get through my property, and I'm not letting them go there. So they got to go 2.5 miles away to tie in. You're not going to pump that 5 volts from that solar panel 2.5 miles. You got nothing left. So all you can do is kick the voltage up. You have to kick that voltage up megavolts. Otherwise, you're losing everything. And the frequency. You're going to have to increase the frequency. Now, when you increase frequency, you increase voltage, you increase the electromagnetic field. Have you ever wondered why, when you drive down the road down here, you see these high tension lines and you think, boy, that's all cleared out and everything, and there's no houses there. I don't see any schools built next to it and the playgrounds underneath it. Why is that? It's because of the electromagnetic field. Why doesn't consumers take all of these panels that they want? Why don't they line them up right on down their high tension lines? They got lots of property. 150 foot on both sides. My goodness gracious, you don't have to take any. Well, why don't they do that? Because there's an electromagnetic field. And they don't want us to know about that. And what Charlie was talking about, this little handheld thing, this electromagnetic field, we're not going to stop them as far as, I don't believe, legislative wise. Because there's a million people out there that want electricity, and we're a little handful over here that don't want it in our backyard. So what can we do? We're kind of gonna catch 22. I think, just my own old man's idea, if 120 people said, we're gonna sue the butt off you guys if your electronic field is in the red on one of these meters, and I drive down the road or my kids walk down the road, and I'm gonna blame every cancer, every malady that I got, I'm gonna blame it on your solar field, and we're gonna tie it up in legislation in the courts. And they are gonna say, hey, there's a bunch of people that are gonna be taking us to court. And I think that is an avenue. Now, one of the things they told us is we gotta have this land. Well, interesting. China is implementing floating solar systems on water to alleviate land use stress and protect agricultural land at the same time. Isn't that interesting? The newest thing, they're putting them on water. How many people go out on Mott Lake? Land's sakes. You know, it ain't hurting the rest of us. You know, this is quite a deal with us. Well, I think that the solution, you know, there's, and I appreciate all of what you're doing. You're trying to fight into a headwind that looks to me like a hurricane. And, you know, they don't really care what you think because you're small potatoes. But there's a lot of people that say, I'm going to file a suit, a court suit. I'm going to tie you up, and your lawyers are going to be spending all day, every day. There's going to be 100 lawsuits. You start putting them things in. We've all got the meters and we're all looking for it. You can drive, just like Charlie said, you can drive right down here and look at the one on Dodge Road. You can just buy a meter, just stick it out the window and just drive down the road, and it pegs to the red. It says it's unhealthy for you to live around that. Those people that are living there, they don't even know that. It's going right by their house. And so if they're going to put these solar farms in, they're going to have to put high tension lines way high. They're going to have to put it in the middle of their fields, and they're going to have to run them 2.5 miles down there to tie in. That's going to be big money. They don't want to do that. They want to run it right down the road, and that'd be a lot cheaper for them because they don't care if it goes in front of your house. But when you're sleeping in the middle of the night, your kid wakes up and says, I got a headache and everything, and you take them in and you find out you got a tumor, you can say, hey, maybe it's that solar farm. Maybe that nut that was talking about that over there at that meeting, maybe there's some substance to it. So I believe that's the solution is when they find, and I'm talking to solar panel companies, when they find out that there's a bunch of people that are just waiting. I got a meter and I'm waiting. You just put it in, and boy, I'm going to file a lawsuit. Soon as I put it in, I got headaches ever since you put it in. You know, I got a bunion down, sciatic nerve. I got all kinds of, take it all to court and tie them up. And I think that will get a lot of attention. In my opinion. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
You know, I don't know who's older, Clyde or me. Clyde brings up a lot of good things. Well, first of all, let me do a little disclaimer. You know, I'm here to talk to you as a resident of Thetford Township, but I'm also the county commissioner for this area. I have served on this. I'm also a candidate for state senate. I'm also a local physician, chiropractic, so, you know, I want to make sure that everybody here knows I wear a lot of different hats, and I'm not here to politic or anything. I'm just trying to talk to you as a resident of this county, but I can't separate all those things because I know so much. And so, you know, I am what I am, and I'm here just to tell you what I know and to help you make decisions. People in this state need to make decisions. These are things that are coming up all over the state. This isn't just Thetford Township. It's everywhere. I know about, as a health practitioner, I know about the electromagnetic fields and some of the problems that causes. And I know that there's some families in this community that receive money from Consumers Power. Those are non-disclosure agreements. And speaking of non-disclosure agreements, I refuse to sign any non-disclosure agreements as sitting in a position that I sit in because, and that's why I don't know some things. They talk to other people that will sign them. So I'm a little out of the loop on some things. But I know that, about the project here in Thetford, we have a farm. That's another hat I wear, but we refuse to sign to lease the land. Now, not always do they lease it. They do buy it sometimes. I want to clarify that. But they do offer a lot of different amounts of money, as Clyde says, and we've been approached, I don't know how many times. I was able to wiggle a contract out of their hands. They don't like showing them up front. They try to get some type of commitment out of you first. And then I took it to an attorney who just tore it apart. But those contracts are not written for the landowner's benefit. They could care less about you. And I think everybody in here knows that. I have gone to conferences in Washington, D.C. just recently, a few months ago. The main topic, every class I went to was these data centers and solar panels, mostly data centers, but I'll explain how that's all interrelated in a second. But the people at these national conferences that I go to, at the national level, whoever the party is that's in control of the White House at the time are the ones that come in and do the speakers. So I've been there for both Democratic and Republican administrations, listening to their politicking. The last time I was there in February, you guys can add it up. But basically, I was told that these things are going to happen. They're a matter of national security. Don't, please. I'm just telling you what was told to me. And that they will, at some point in time, probably override local ordinances like what we're talking about here with what the state of Michigan has done. I'm just telling you that to be ready if that happens, and I'm sure it will. Everybody has to be vocal. I'm glad everybody here is. I've heard a lot of good ideas, but you need to contact your state reps and your state senators to let them know how you feel. One of the other problems is that so many things at the state level, and even at the county level, which I'm fighting against, but anyway, they have over the years given up their authority to committees, non-elected people, appointed people that are making those law and those decisions that we're forced to live by. And so I know that there's an effort to change that, but you need to put pressure on your reps and your senators to take it personal and quit letting organizations like Eagle and other ones make the decisions for you. They're just appointed. That's all they are. They are not elected. And this country is ran by the people or elected by the people. That's just something, I'm just encouraging, my fellow residents here to do that. Don't be shy about it. Do it. I get phone calls that, what I do, and I listen. And I know those state senators and I know those state representatives, they listen. So you need to call them. I hate to say that you're right, the squeaky wheel gets attention. I will tell you that as one of the things I learned early in life when I started getting involved with public services is if you go in there shouting and yelling, they turn you off immediately. You have to go in there calmly, explain your position. And that's enough of being a squeaky wheel, but don't lose your temper. Because they'll shut you right out. I mean, that's just human nature. Somebody yells at me, I don't listen. And I'm not talking about politics, I'm just talking about my personal life. And that's how it works. And, but we get emotional and it's hard not to. I've made that mistake myself and I do it. Now, we just sat in the meeting just recently with Rachel, and I don't know who else was there with the Consumers Power. Talking about putting in the plant, which is, in my opinion, a good thing. It's a real good thing, but what I did learn and I didn't know prior to that is that due to, I don't know, was it state or federal law, Rachel, that before they can build a plant, they have to have so much coming from renewable energy. What was that percentage?
I don't know off the top of my head, but.
But it was state, it seems like it was 12 or 14%, but I can't remember.
So the mix of hydrogen and wind and solar.
Multiple
Yeah.
things, yeah, and but there are a lot of different alternate ways of producing that electricity. And so we as citizens of the United States, we need to be vocal. And I'm thankful that you are having this meeting for the residents today to express themselves. And I don't know if there's any plants out here, because I know that if organizations, when they're wanting to come into a community, they'll send in their reps and they'll sit out there in the audience quietly. I've done it recently as a county commissioner. I'll go to a meeting outside of my county. And if I make the comment that I'm there to investigate, to do something differently at our county, and I'm trying to learn things, I suddenly get hit by lobbyists like you won't believe. So I like to stay quiet. Now today I'm up speaking because I care about this community. And you're going to be under a lot of pressure to make a lot of decisions. Unfortunately, we all made the decision to run for it. And so that burden falls on your shoulders, falls on mine too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzma. Any other statements? Question?
I didn't know that's coming up.
Matter of time, Julie.
You know.
Okay, I'm looking at the list here where it says what we do know. Now, we've been working on the ordinance, what did you say, since 22? Thereabout? Okay. And this is the first that we've had a public hearing about this outside of planning.
No, the second town hall.
The second town hall?
Yes.
Not the town hall where we see the video. But where people come up and.
No,
Okay. Well, anyways, looking at what we know, the update from the attorney, it says 4/20, that would be today. Did you get an update from the attorney?
Yeah, because you walked in a little bit
I
late.
did.
Okay,
I
so
apologize.
I can give you a copy of it. We read it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, I apologize. Also to go along with, many of the complaints about the meeting being sent in the mail. I personally did not get one at my house. At all. But my mother received 2 of them. One on Saturday and one today. We need to be more timely in this. That also, so this is my question. Where do we go from here? What can we do? Isn't it too late? Other than sending emails to these people, is it too late? They're gonna make the decision.
Well, I would say as a voter, I don't think it's never too late to stand up. This meeting was called, obviously a lot of people were uneducated, didn't know what was going on in their community. So it's a form of education, answering questions, bringing people up to speed, letting residents collaborate with each other, understand what's already translated in the community. So is it too late? Do we have a say in this project? No, it's already at the state level. But
So it is too
we
late
do have the,
to have a say in this particular project.
well, we didn't have a choice. So Otisville took this to the state on their own. There was a time frame which was mentioned at the last town hall meeting that people had to put public comments in. But as far as being able to have a say, it's just the attorney picking apart the plan the best that we can. And then obviously we have Stephanie and Tilson who are also interveners in the case as well, so.
Which I appreciate your time, both of you, very much. There is still one thing that all residents should do and can do, which is post public comments. There's no time limit on that. It will get reviewed by definitely the Michigan Public Service Commission staff. I know it gets summarized for the judge. Might be a little too, I'm not sure if the attorney is gonna be able to put in anything after tomorrow. Yeah. But at the same time, there's still value to it. So keep putting in public comments.
So is that at the MPSC?
Yes.
That you put the public comment in for?
Yes, yes. At the Michigan Public Service Commission website, there's a way to submit a public comment.
Okay.
And that is significant and important.
Okay.
And I'll look back, Julie, I thought maybe back in November, we might have posted the link on the Facebook page, I can't recall.
Yeah,
I think
there might have
it was
been.
posted for people to be able to easily access it.
Right. So there was mention of the data centers. And they are coming. We all know this. We all know this. They're gonna try. I know that we have an ordinance for the moratoriums. Will
We just, yep, we
Will
just.
we be
approved
having
one.
will we be having a resolution to put a moratorium on data centers at the next board meeting?
That is the intention, yeah.
Okay. Have we had any applications for data centers here?
No.
Okay. So if we get an application for a data center, is there a possibility that we could do a mailer? Put it on the TV, put it in the paper, so we have a town hall ahead of time. So that they are aware that we don't want it here.
We can get that out there. I mean, our zoning ordinance right now is being updated, so once the moratorium goes into effect, it's gonna be months, even if they were to try to submit an application. Because we're in the process of remodeling the zoning ordinance and updating that to collaborate with the master plan that just got completed.
Absolutely,
And then we'll have the moratorium on, so it's all a good reason to implement a moratorium.
absolutely.
But if after that fact, we receive applications for data centers, yes, we absolutely will let the public know, and we can open it up for a town hall as well.
Before it gets to this point where we're at the mercy of waiting till the last minute.
We didn't have a choice on this, Mercy. We did collaborate for years on the ordinance. We've had meetings after meetings, regular meetings, even when you were a trustee. and
I'm
things
aware of
like
that.
Yeah, so this isn't, I mean, for regulars who come to all of our meetings, our planning commission, residents that have been impacted or been talked to, a lot of people are aware of it. It is the Outer Banks of Thetford. I don't think, I see so many new faces
That's what I'm
that
getting at.
people were. aware
That's what I'm getting at, or is that there are so many here that. I mean, I've sat there for years and years, and some of them, I have no idea who our neighbors are like that.
It's involvement, you know, and before it went up in their backyard, and that's kind of always been. What I understood being in an elected position is people don't understand what's really going on in their township till it's in their backyard and it's too late. Right now, is this too late? Yeah, we still can post our comments, we can still voice our opinion about it, know where it's at. But at the same time, it's same with our marijuana businesses. A lot of people didn't know what was going on with that until they were in their backyard. So we are trying to be ahead of the game and letting you know what's coming a year ahead of time. If it is a state approved, the project moves forward, obviously next year they're gonna start drilling holes and putting poles in the ground. But I mean, we're doing our best we can. We are doing the best we can.
That was basically my point, is to get ahead of But so that the community knows further. With more advance notice. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, just, and I can't remember, was that moratorium 6 months renewable? What did we put in there? What is in there?
We haven't done one.
Well, we haven't done it, but what was the
No, we
wording?
adopted an ordinance to be able to implement moratorium. So that took effect, it was 30 days after, I think Sherry got it published. So now we can bring the actual resolution to put a moratorium on the data.
The resolution, what's the time frame?
We can do it. I would say we start at 6 months, but it's always something that can be extended. They're looking at the zoning ordinance, not even getting done till the end of the year, so I think we have enough legal support to be able to put a moratorium on until December if we wanted to.
And it's renewable. I believe we wrote it initially for 1 year. But then you can renew it and it has to be renewed. The moratorium has to be for a good reason. And we have a prime reason right now on the fact that we're redoing the master zoning ordinance to go with the master plan. And the time frame for that was September of this year to be completed. We've had to push that back. So that's our reasoning for moratoriums on any special new land use that pops up until we get this zoning ordinance completed. We'll try to address what we see in the crystal ball coming at the time, so.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember when we do pass the resolution, it'll be a year.
The board picks the time.
Okay.
And I would encourage everybody too out there to look at this and look into these bills that are out there. I know when I went to a meeting in Lansing last week, it was brought to me by our representatives, attention that there's a lot more zoning restrictions, not specifically solar, but housing, sewer, different things like that. The legislation is also trying to take away from the local officials and make it a state law. So it's not ending with just solar. There's more coming down the road. So I would just pay attention to who you're voting for this year and what you're voting for this year and what people are standing for. It's important because here we are and it's already in our backyard being pushed on us. Eric, do you have anything to say? You've been kind of quiet over there this week.
I'm just sitting back, absorbing everything. I agree with everything. I'd like to thank everyone that's been taking a part of this. Thank everyone for coming out. It's our final comments.
No, I just.
Okay. I just kind of reserve my final, you know, I don't want to be too long-winded.
Is there anybody else out there that would like to say anything?
Yeah.
Some of you know me, some of you don't, but I'm Mike Patterson. I live over in the Green Triangle. So I got a different issue that came over things all around me. So, but you talk about dealing with the House of Representatives and the government. Okay, I went for 2 years to Lansing once a week, 1 day with a dozen other people. We got to know the House of Representatives. We got to talk with them, find out what their families were doing, what other things are. Because how can you go in and say, I want you to do this, and not even know who you are? It really helps them to get to know you and you get to know them, what's going on. So unfortunately, I could, because of my job requirements this year, I could not go this year with them, but there's still people that go there all the time to talk with them. And that makes a difference. They do bring up to me, did remind me that certain times in sessions, that things are going to change, like we got governors are going to be changed pretty soon, and other things will be changed. So they'll just hold off on even talking about any of the upcoming bills, because if they did it and passed it now, governor would just veto it. Then it goes on to the next legislation, the next people that being voted. And it's important to get to know who your representatives are. We had Phil Green come here and a dozen people showed up. Nobody showed up to see him when he was here. And he's representing most of this area right here. So it helps to get to know them when they have a town hall or something, get to know these people, and then they'll work for you. And they'll tell you what's going on, like you said, if you go. And otherwise you won't know what's going on in the area. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Beatrice Burton. I just would like to know, tomorrow is the meeting, correct? And they're going to make this decision. Is it made?
No, they're not making the decision. That's just one of the start dates. So
Okay.
there's court dates
Planning
spread out.
process of how long this actually takes. It's not made in one day. They don't go in there and do that.
No, so they already submitted the application and now the application has been approved. So tomorrow will be the staff and interviewer testimony, which is the 21st. On May 22nd is the rebuttal testimony.
Okay.
Motions to strike is on June 5th. Responses to motions comes on June 12th. The initial briefs is August 3rd. Reply to briefs is August 24th. PFD target date September 24th. And then the proposed expectations to be determined is looking at October 14th. Proposed replies to exceptions would be October 28th, and then the commission order by December 11th. There was slight cross-examination. Scheduled hearing is for June 24th, 25th, and 26th. So it stands out, they have to the end of the year. I believe it was 1 year, correct me if I'm wrong, from the date of the application due.
Okay, all right. I didn't know. I knew that they were meeting tomorrow, but I didn't know that was like.
Yeah,
Good, that's good.
So we're trying to start you guys off and move you along the process.
Well, I just thought they were gonna go tomorrow and look at everything and say, this is our decision, it's, you know. Why not start building?
I'm gonna try to fight it out.
Okay, follow the process, the lawyer can, you know, they'll get their turn, we'll get our turn, and we're gonna go back and forth, and the best we can pray for is that it comes back to us. And they have to do what we would like. Okay.
So just so everyone's aware, this is something I recently learned, New Michigan Public Service Commission is headed by 3 unelected bureaucrats. And they meet just like we do. And actually, every case is presented to them and they have to vote, just like you would. They're presented with, you know, the staff recommendations and the staff say whether, you know, whether or not they think they should approve it or not. I mean, clearly they had read it in advance, just like you would. But there's a day that happens in Lansing in a room that's open to the public. So it's a day where you can make comments too. Yeah, that's December 11th, the commission order. Yeah. So it's not approved until that day. There'll be recommendations before that. You'll be able to read those online. All of those will be on the Michigan Public Service Commission docket as they get uploaded, and you can read the recommendations. But there is a day that's like this with Michigan Public Service Commission, and those 3 people will be sitting at a table. There'll be chairs out there, and there's a microphone. Should we get a bus?
Yeah.
Our case will be one of many. But what I've seen, you can actually go on YouTube and look up Michigan Public Service Commission meetings, and you'll just see that they just open with the Pledge of Allegiance, talk, then one after the other, the cases come through. And they discuss very briefly. Most of them just go through. But like, for example, the reason I learned this is because of the Saline data center case. That was more controversial. So that was a longer discussion and then people had a lot of comments afterward. Actually, it went like 3 hours. So it's an opportunity to voice yourself.
Thank you, Stephanie. Is there any other comments? Okay, is there anything else anybody up here would like to say to the public before we end the town hall?
We did have, in making comments to the Public Service Commission on this particular case, at the last town hall meeting, we had a flyer with a QR code on it and the website address that you could scan and go to put your public comment in to appear on the case file page. It's the Michigan Public Service Commission. I don't know right offhand if we have any of those handy right now, but we can make some more available. I believe we put it, I don't know if we put it on the website at that time or not. The last I checked, the case file, there was 108 comments on there now. And they ranged from a lot of residents that spoke against solar and why they didn't want it. Some residents did like it. We had people that do not even live in Thetford or even this part of the state saying how great solar is, making comments on it. The last one that I'm aware of is a representative from one of the major labor unions saying how wonderful this is for all his people to have jobs. But bear in mind that once this is built, they're gone, you know, it's short term. But there's things like this that are put on there to sway opinions. So, you know, you still have a chance right up to the end to make comments, and we will try to get that QR code posted or something too, that in the website. You can go, you can view them. All it takes is an email address to submit it. You don't have to make an account. You don't have to identify yourself. All they ask for is just a name and an email address. You type in your comment right on their form page, hit send, and it appears there the next day. You can go back and read your comment. And you can read all 108 comments that went before you. So, but I think that's a valuable thing because it does get our opinions out there. You know, some of the other case files I found, there's only 20 comments on it. You know, why, I don't know, but we're just encouraging. It's one of the avenues we can use, and we need to use every little thing we can use. So.
Where's the QR code?
Thank you, Ken. We'll get it printed off. I think our deputy has it. She'll be able to print it off for us and we'll get it out to you guys. And make sure you mention if you are a Thetford resident, you should mention that.
Yes.
Comment.
Can you print it right now? Or a forest. Yeah. Resident.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's even better.
Any other last comments? Gary?
Yeah, I want to say a couple things. I you know, listened to all the sentiment with the comments, and Marty Cruzino made some really interesting comments. You know, when I look at this, and I'm just going to throw out some numbers just to put some perspective on this. Our country, primarily the United States, has lost over 2,000 prime farmland acres per day since January 1st of 2000. 563 million acres have been lost to development. Ironically, about that, during that same period of time, China has acquired over 542 million acres of prime farmland around the world. So I hear the sentiment of the people in a big room somewhere far off are making these decisions that us little people aren't smart enough to understand, and we just have to trust them that they're making the best decisions for us. And there's an element or a sense of hopelessness that all of this is, and I say nonsense, absolute nonsense. We elect people. Battery energy storage systems are a threat. They're dangerous. Go look online at the fires. They're hard to understand. They're hard to control. Massive data centers all over the United States. To replace the electricity, 386 billion solar panels are going to cover the whole world. And we hear songs about cover the, you know, pave everything in the parking lot. We're going to cover the whole country. There's got to be better solutions to all of this. And we can't be passive and just lay down and say, well, we just got to trust them. They don't know what they need. We need all this electricity. There's got to be other solutions. China's got 1.3 billion people. They got 4 times more people than we do. They don't use 1 acre of farmland for solar panels. They need more electricity than we do, 4 times more. There's got to be other solutions. I did read one of the contracts that one of the farmers has signed, and I read it. They didn't read it. They signed it. After I read it, and it's long, and it's thick, and it's written in their favor. They were extremely disappointed with what they signed. They thought they were getting X amount per acre. You give them X number of acres. For example, you give them 100 acres and they quote you a figure per acre, but they put solar panels on about 50% of it because the rest is egress and roads and access. That's what you get paid for. So right off, they didn't know that they signed the thing that said they were only getting 50% of what they thought they were getting, but it was too late. Also said on page 376 that if you ever go to sell your land, they have first right of refusal. You can't sell it to anybody but them. There's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
the marketing stuff that companies come up with is beautiful. There's birds and rainbows and rabbits jumping around and it's all beautiful. But the truth of the matter is, this company, Thetford Renewables, the parent company is a French company. It's not a US company. And they form LLCs. LLC stands for Limited Liability Company. You can have zero assets. Sue an LLC and find out what you get. And they can sell to another LLC, sell to another LLC. So when we try to pin them down that they're gonna leave us, and we're talking 30 years, no, we're talking 42 to 44 years, over 4 decades down the road of financial requirements, what the Environmental Protection Agency is gonna require. We don't have a good feel for what it's gonna cost to decommission and return the land back to its current state. It could be multiples more. But it's easy to get out of that if you're an LLC. You simply file bankruptcy 5 minutes before you turn off the solar panels. We wanted the parent company to be liable. They wouldn't. So we put in ours, okay. The LLC can file bankruptcy and they can disappear. Leave 2,100 acres of solar panels out there for the next 30 years to rot, because nobody's gonna spend the millions of dollars to remove them. We want the farmer, the landowner, to be equally responsible. So we put that in there. We think it's fair. But I believe as a country, we gotta rethink this. We're gonna try to solve an energy problem. Real or perceived. Are we gonna create a food crisis problem? I'd rather eat before I turn on the light. So, you know, there's a lot to this. I think we gotta really rethink this. But this sense that the people have no voice in this anymore, and that this train is moving and we're all gonna get run over or get out of the way, I have a real hard time accepting that.
Me too.
I just think that's nonsense. So you heard a lot of websites, you heard a lot of things, you heard our HR bill, and every one of you should be thoroughly confused about what you're supposed to go home and do. All right, I think I'm supposed to call somebody. There's a phone number, there's something I should put in comments. Well, you should be confused because a lot of stuff got thrown out there and you should not, you know, but I'm gonna trust Andy. The first thing, the easiest thing, she couldn't have made it any easier. That QR code, you take your phone and scan it, takes you right to the website.
Just making copies right
And
now.
man, that thing is beautiful the way she did it. She made it simple. I had a hard time getting on there until she did it for me. Go in there, submit comments, put in something they need to hear. You know, earlier when we had meetings, they say, oh, you're saying that the residents are outraged at this. Where are they? How come they didn't show up for the meeting? How come they haven't said anything? So we need your help. You know, we really need your help. Put in one sentence, put in one comment, just do something. Make a phone call. There's a whole list of phone numbers. You don't have to call them all, that's overwhelming. Call somebody, get the word out. So people aren't sitting in Lansing saying, man, it's like a cricket, we haven't heard anything out of any Thetford Township. Just do something, please. All right, thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you. Eric, do you have any final words?
No, I don't, I apologize for that late mailing, but I'm so happy that so many people turned out to get involved and hear where we're at, so. All I can do is say thank you for that. That's all I really have, and I think Amby's gonna have some of them for you, those QR codes in a minute, so. But that's it, Eric, you're up.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. Never forget the world is run by those who show up, and that's what you've done today. And take into consideration all that you've learned today. There's a lot of good information that came out today. Stay vigilant, call your House and state representatives, your senators, call them. Don't, you know, obviously, tap at that, of course, but be polite, be respectful, but tell them that you are unhappy with this law, whether they voted for it or not. Doesn't matter whether they're Republican or Democrat. Doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or Democrat. You have the right to call both parties, both. It doesn't matter. They are here to serve you. Okay. Complaints go up. We must send them. That's the important takeaway. This is a hot topic for politics, and this is election season. So think about that, do diligently, and use that to your advantage. It's important. There's a lot of takeaways here. I'd like to thank Kevin Lawrence, chairing the planning commission. I'd also like to thank Gary Tilson. We appointed him to the planning commission. I was very supportive with Rachel and others. It's in getting him on the board there. Where his property was, he was going to be greatly affected. And someone that is affected by this is usually very instrumental in bringing out a lot of deep facts and information that we all need to have. So thank you, Gary, for that, and Stephanie as well. Thank you. So with that, thank you all. Have a good night.
And I do want to remind everybody, we do have our regular board of trustee meetings the first Tuesday of every month. Please, if you want to come out and just kind of get up to speed of what's going on in your township. And then I'll try to maybe do another town hall in a few more months, so you guys got an update of where we are. I just think it's important that you guys know what's going on in your township and how it's playing out. So, with that being said, I'll go ahead and make a motion to adjourn, but, I do want to encourage all of you to stick around, talk to each other, collaborate on ideas, talk to Stephanie, Kevin, Gary. They've all been on this since day one. And, you know, residents in our township. So, as well as Eric or John or me, if you have any questions and just didn't want to get up and talk about it in front of everyone. So, with that being said, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
Before you leave, get a copy of this QR code from Amby before you leave.
No, I mean, it's easy.
Oh, yeah. I want to see. Wow.
This family thing's been brewing for about 2 years and now it's winter, you know. And they.